Nadira, who has a few minutes to spare for us to tell us a wonderful story. Now, Nadira is a channel, and she's an internationally known psychic, and she's also an earthly assistant to the Archangel Michael, and she is a contactee, and we're hoping today to hear a little of her story. So, Nadira, hello.
Thank you.
I believe you have a contactee. Can you tell us a little bit about her?
I was contacted many times over my lifetime, but the one that had instructed me on the awakening of mankind and what is to come in the future is the one that I call the Commander. And there was not a name that ever passed between us. She knew my name, she knew everything about me, and it was as if I knew everything about her also, and names were not important, so I've always referred to her as the Commander.
Do you know where she came from? Was it a ship or a planet?
The ship, yes. Do you want me to tell you a bit about the what was called an abduction, or because to me it was not an abduction so much as it was a learning experience. It was more like an instruction, and it's kind of detailed as far as that particular time. That was one of the first times that I was taken.
This sounds really fascinating. Would you like to tell everybody that's watching this video your story right from the start? I believe you said it started before you were born.
Yes.
Yeah?
It did. I have to take you back a number of years. And this is before I was born, to my parents. And this is from my parents, these words. But they told me that before I was born, that they were in their bedroom, and as it was their custom, they would sit and read, and both of them together, you know, one reading a book, one reading another book, or a newspaper or whatever. And my mother said that what happened was she was sitting there reading, and my father was awake and reading. Both of them were awake. And she said that into the bedroom came a huge bright light. And she said it was like a white light with a little bit of yellow in the middle. And she said the light started speaking to her and told her things, and told her that she was not supposed to speak of it until a later time. And so, and she said that she looked over at my father, and my father was just reading this book as if totally oblivious to what was going on with her. And so she wasn't supposed to say anything to my father. And then, at that time anyway. And so she told me it was the next night, the same thing happened to my father, but she was oblivious as to what was happening to him. And then both of them keeping their secret, suppose, you know, like a secret, not to tell each other anything. And then until, I believe she said it was the 5th day. And on the 5th day, they were supposed to reveal to each other what this voice had said. And the voice had said that she was actually pregnant. She didn't know she was expecting at the time. She was expecting, she was going to have a daughter, that the daughter was going to be instructed by the heavenly sources, and that they were how to raise me. And there was a lot of other instruction that they could not reveal to me, and actually very little was revealed to me over the years. And it was much later in my life that I found this out. It wasn't until I was well into my, I was 20, I believe, before they started telling me about my birth and the phenomena around it. And they told me, or they told my parents, the voice told my parents that even what day I would be born. And everything was coincided, and everything happened exactly as the voice had said. They believe this voice to be from an angel, and I believe that also. But the main thing is when I was born with 2 veils, which was predicted. And anyone who doesn't know what the veil is, it's a layer of skin over the face. And I didn't have 1, I had 2. And it had to be removed. And I don't know if it was a result of that or not, but my parents said that my skin glowed after they took the veils off. And the nurses would say that I had magic skin because it was glowing. And my parents lived in the desert in California. They had purchased property there. And they lived in a remote area. Well, by the time they brought me home, and then the next day, they had 10 people on their doorstep wanting to touch the magic skin baby. And that didn't set very well with my father. He was very protective. And he was, for whatever reasons, because he had had his instructions, my mother had had her instructions, so they packed up and they moved away. And she said that phenomena stayed with me for 10 days. And then it left, of course. And then from one place to another they went, and then finally they decided to move to Oregon, to my grandfather's property, which was a few hundred acres up in the hills. It was a small, very tiny Scottish community. And it was very tight-knit with the clans. There was probably right around 200 people, basically farmers and loggers and things like that. But this is how I was brought up, and it was like being brought up in a place from 300 years ago. During that time, myself, my younger brother, I had 3 brothers. I was second to the youngest, and my younger brother and I, we explored all the time. We were constantly gone. I mean, even when we were just little tiny kids, we were gone out looking for arrowheads, exploring trails, doing things like that. And there was many times my younger brother, when he was sick or whatever, I would go out by myself and go exploring. And it was nothing to be gone for, most of the day, and then come back at dinner time. And during that time, and this was always in the summer, it was never in the winter time. And I'm not sure if it was something to do with the season, or if it was just the fact that in Oregon, especially in those days, it was very cold, it was rainy. But in the summer, I was visited many, many, many times by this, what you would call an ET. I called him the Catman. And I was very tiny for my age. And the first time I saw the Catman, I was only like 6, 7 years old, maybe, at the very most. And as I recall, and I didn't realize it at the time, but he was not that much taller than I was. And I was small for my age. And he had a round face. He had curled up eyes, very small, just like little slits that curled up. He had yellowish skin, which was rough and bumpy. You know how you get goosebumps? And you get the little bumps all over? Well, this is how his skin was. And then he had big yellow spots. And then from here, he had these wild, what I thought was hairs. They could have been some kind of feelers or something. But in my mind's eye, I have always referred to him as the Catman. And he was, and he had always had a big smile, had very large lips, and that turned up. It always looked like he was smiling, always. And with the Catman, I had many conversations, and the Catman gave me a great deal of information. This is some type of information that I can go into later, because it's for more advanced into the future, because the information he gave me was more geared to what he said would be my grandchildren. So I'll leave it at that. So I had the Catman, and then, of course, I was, as far as the ET. Now, as far as the angels go, and the instruction from the angels, I was taught and instructed and guided very gently, very lovingly by Archangel Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and the one that was with me in the entirety and has always been with me is Jaleel. And then from there was Sundar Singh, Rebazar Tars, and many, many more. As I've evolved with the spirituality, as I've taken the steps that Spirit has asked me to do, I have gained gifts from Spirit, so to speak. Because I want you to know, I have no power. There's nothing from me that has power. The only thing I'm able to do is channel Spirit, channel Spirit's energy when I do healings, channel Spirit as I do the channelings. Every bit and particle of me is in following with what Spirit says. So all of the energy, everything is coming from the spiritual levels. And as I progressed and I traveled and I did readings and I did channelings and things like that, as time went on, when I was in my, her kids, you know, we were like family. And so she had a little shop, and it was a little boutique of imports and things from overseas. So she asked me to go to San Francisco with her on a buying trip. And I had time off from my job. I was working, and I thought, okay, I'll go. So off we went. We loaded up her station wagon, loaded up the kids, and took off to San Francisco. She had to stop in Paradise first, and a little place called Paradise. It's a good name for that town. But and she dropped the children off, and then her and I went on our way to San Francisco to do this buying trip. And we were staying at the Harbor Motel. And after we had gone to all these different shops and things that she wanted to go to that particular day, because we were there for a few days' time, she said, "Well, let's go down to the wharf and have dinner." And so I said, "Sure." We're down at the wharf, Fisherman's Wharf, and we're having dinner. And both of us, I don't know why, but we had eaten, we had ordered another cup of coffee, and both of us simultaneously turned to the left. Against the wall was this big round clock. And the clock said 7:20 in the evening. And we both turned and looked at the same, and we both said at the same time, "It's 7:20, we have to go." And we got up, paid for the meal, immediately went out, got in the car, took off. It was 7:20 when we, right about there when we left. And then, I don't know the streets, but we just went down, made a right, and then started going down the street. All of a sudden, we went back the same way we had came to Fisherman's Wharf. But somehow, inadvertently, and I don't know how, I couldn't tell you, it was like we were under hypnosis or something. But we ended up going over the Golden Gate Bridge. You know, we're going to the Golden Gate. She said, how did we end up here? And I go, I don't know. That's strange. We must have missed a turn. It's rational, right? So must have missed a turn, whatever. And it was just like a matter of minutes. And the odd thing was, there was no one on this bridge. No one on the Golden Gate Bridge. There was no toll, no toll takers, no nothing there. And there was this incredible fog, thick fog. And it was only on the bridge itself. The night had been perfectly clear. So we're driving, she has her radio on, radio quits, and she keeps gunning the car. She goes, I'm gunning the car, I'm trying to go faster, but the car won't go faster. What's going on? She says, this is weird. And I saw what she was doing. I said, yeah, it doesn't feel like we're moving. And I looked down, not down, but I looked out, and then I looked down, and we were above the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, I turned, because it's getting to the point where our memories were just like, I turned and I said, Mary, we're above the Golden Gate Bridge, right? And I remember her looking out the window, and she looks down, and she looks back at me, and she goes, how cool is that? And I go, yeah, like that. And then obviously we were being lifted up. That was the end of it, because we didn't, that was the end of that memory. I don't remember seeing a ship, don't remember being lifted, a light or whatever. All there was this fog, very thick. Now, as I said, we were staying at the Harbor Motel, which was, I think, on Harbor Avenue or whatever. It was not that very far, just a matter of like 7-8 blocks away from Fisherman's Wharf. And somehow, when we came to, we're in the station wagon again. We're parked, I don't know what's it called. It crosses over, the Golden Gate Bridge crosses over to Marin, I believe, or something like that. And there was some side street and a motel called like Desert Sands or The Sands, something like that. And then we were parked right there, and we're just sitting there. It wasn't like we were asleep, we were just sitting there. And I looked over and I saw Arla, how did we get here? And she said, I don't know. And then she turned the radio on. The radio worked then. She checked her watch. It was 11:40 in the morning. So you're talking from, say, 7:30 maybe at the very most to 11:40. That we have no, or she, there was no, the time could not account for the time.
Did you have the children with you then?
No. She had dropped off her kids.
Oh, I see.
And of course I wasn't married, I was single.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And she had dropped off her children at Paradise. So we were
I
alone.
see, yeah.
Had not been drinking, no drugs, no nothing. I mean, neither one of us did that kind of thing. We'd had a glass of water at dinner. And like I said, we ordered the coffee, to have a cup of coffee. Didn't even stick around for that. We just had to leave. It was something that we both knew. We had an appointment because we both looked at the clock at the same time, 7:20. We have to go. And so we immediately took off, immediately was taken up to wherever. But that's when I met the commander. Now, there's conflicting stories there. As I said, Mary and I were best friends. We were in contact all the time, tell each other anything. And she didn't want to talk about, because I told her, I said, what do you remember? I asked her that. I said, what do you remember? Do you remember anything? Because I have memories. She goes, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear any memories. I don't want to talk about it. And she didn't want to discuss it. She was afraid. And then from there, her boyfriend, this man, did hypnosis. That she told me, she said, well, he's been doing hypnosis on me to have me remember, and she gave me some information that she says, well, we were abducted. She said I was probed, and all these different things had happened to her that were not good. That I felt very badly for her because this was what she remembered after the hypnosis.
It's almost as if you went to two different ships.
I don't know.
I
don't know.
Yeah,
That's a possibility.
Anything
is possible. Yeah. I have found that there's everything is impossible until it isn't. And I found that with UFOs and aliens or ETs, whatever, and also with spirit. I mean, there's nothing that surprises me, but that could be a possibility. But my experience was totally different. I had. Let me backtrack just for a second here, because before I went on this trip with her, I was not feeling well. I had a fever, I had pains in my stomach, and I just, I was afraid. It wasn't like the flu. I don't really know what it was. It was something I just never had before, and it was hurting me. And it would kind of come and go. and I couldn't eat very much, and then I'd get nauseous and having problems that way. And so I had this going on, and then I had made the decision to go. I thought, well, maybe it'll make me feel better. And for that particular day that we took off, and for the next couple of days, I was feeling okay. And then after the experience with the commander and the UFO, this pain was gone, the nausea was gone. I felt fine. I felt better than I had in a long time. And so years later, it wasn't until after 85, so like around 80, yeah, like around 85, I had to have a laparoscopy. They're fine, this is fine, that's fine. Gallbladder removal, rib is missing. Interesting, because I've never had gallbladder surgery. And I don't have a scar. So I thought, well, I'll talk to the doctor. I didn't go in to see him, I just called him on the phone, and in those days they actually called you back. And I said to him, I said, can there be a mistake on this report here? Because as far as I know, I've never had gallbladder surgery. He goes, well, you don't have a, you know, he got the report and got the chart, I suppose, I'm not sure, but he was telling me, he said, well, you don't have a gallbladder. And this tube and that tube and been reconnected and whatever. And in those days, they didn't do gallbladder surgery through the navel like they do now. They can do some kind of fancy thing and pull the gallbladder actually right out of the navel. Well, in those days, they didn't do that. In those days, they cut you open and they removed your gallbladder, and they left a scar.
It was a big deal, wasn't it?
Exactly. And my sister-in-law had had gallbladder surgery, and I seen her scarred. I don't have anything like that. So, and plus a rib was missing. So it's like, okay, that could have been a deformity that I was born with. This is what the doctor's saying. He said, well, possibly that was, you were born with that. But he said, as far as the gallbladder, no, you have to take one tube and connect it to another tube when you take the gallbladder out. He explained it to me. I don't remember exactly how it was. But so anyway, I firmly believe that they took out my gallbladder for me while I was on the ship. And I felt a lot better, and I say thank you to them, And while I was on the ship, I got to meet the commander, and I was actually in the area that she was in that has the controls. It had control panel. It was curved right there. Looked like something out of kind of like Star Trek in a way, but it had different symbols on different. Had some panels, and it had different symbols on each panel. They weren't large panels. They weren't large symbols. And she was speaking with me, and she said, "You're not like the others." And this was mind to mind. This was through telepathy, I have to tell you that. And telepathy is our universal language. But she said, "You're not like the others." And I said, "Why is that?" And when I answered back, and she said, "Well, you have no fear." And I thought, no, I had no fear. What I had was curiosity, and I was very inquisitive. I wanted to know about her. I wanted to know about the ship, and she knew what I wanted to know. So she told me, and then she told me a lot more. But she told me about the ship. She showed me the symbols, and I asked her, I said, what do these symbols represent? And she said they represent different universes. And I said, you can go from one universe to another? And she said, yes. And she said, pick a symbol. Go ahead, pick a symbol. And I picked this one that kind of looked like a sideways dollar sign, but it was similar to a dollar sign, but it was sideways. And I said, well, I guess I'll take that one. And instantly, we were in another universe. Instantly, we were in what she called the green universe. And she showed me this universe, and it was absolutely beautiful. And then she took me from that one, she took me to another universe. And in that universe, it was purple, and it was purple and pink. The planet was purple and pink, the lights, because as we were coming into the planet, and then it had 3 other planets close by. I don't know if those were moons or what, but everything was pink and purple there. And then they zoomed into the planet itself, and there was structures there that appeared to be like glass, but it wasn't glass. I don't know what it was, but it was clear. And the beings that were on this planet were all light. You could see a head, you could see the body. Oh, I know. I can't think of the name of the movie now, but there was one movie that I saw where there was something similar to that, and I thought, gee, that's just like that universe that I saw. I'll think of the movie later, probably. But you could see the head, everything, and they had no body. They had no flesh, all right? It was all white light, and they could just zip around and fly, you know? And they weren't large beings. They were smaller beings. I would say not over 5'4", 5'3" at the most. And there were some that were smaller, some larger, but right around that size. And then I was brought back in. Then we came back to wherever we began from, because I have no idea where we were at when she showed me the universes. But at that time, there was children came up. I still have to backtrack again. Okay, so while we were there, and I was having this conversation with her, I looked at her. Now, I think she is what would be called a gray. She had the real wrinkly skin, gray, the very large eyes, the large head, you know, very narrow, thin body. And I was looking at her, and I said, this is a mask. I was having conversation with her, as I said, and I was looking at her, because I knew this was a female. It's just the voice that I heard in my mind, the telepathic voice, was a female voice. So I'll put it that way. And the energy that she exuded seemed to be female. And she was what I think was called a gray. And she had very, like, very large eyes, large head, small mouth, small nose, very wrinkly body, the body part of her. And then I looked at her and I said, this is a mask, isn't it? She said, yes. And I said, and I touched her. And I said, and this is a uniform? She said, yes, you could call it that. And I said, oh. She said, the reason why is because we are so fragile that your bacteria and your, germs or whatever would kill us. We have to wear this. And I said, oh. And then at the other segment, the children came in. And they were female. And they were not in that uniform. They were not in that mask. And they looked part human. They had hair. They had, it was like, all of them had this white hair. It was real straight and it kind of just stuck out. They had large eyes, but they had a nose, a small nose, a human nose, and a human mouth, and human ears, human hands. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There was 5 of them there. There was one that had more of the alien fingers, which is a longer, elongated fingers, and from the phalanges of the fingers are longer, like with this phalange here and here and here, because I studied palmistry for forever. But that was one of the things that I noticed with the commander. Her, like the phalange from this to the tip was more like this long, and then she didn't have the middle phalange. She only had the one down here. So it's totally different. And it had to correlate with her body. The uniform that she had on had to correlate with her body, or it wouldn't be working, But with the children, all of them had more of the human fingers, human shape. And there was one that that had bigger, longer fingers. And but as far as the ears were there, the nose, the mouth. And so I asked her about the children, and I said, well, they're mixed with our race. They're mixed with the human back. There's a lot of scientific jargon that she had said, but that I could not understand. But it basically, what it amounted to was their race is very fragile. They're trying to integrate. They're trying to build it up. And I asked her, because I knew that she was part of my future and part of my destiny. Because at that time I knew that my purpose in being here, as Spirit had said, my purpose in being born, my purpose in having a life and existing, and I really don't even know how I lived as long as I have, with everything I've gone through. My purpose was to awaken the people. And so I knew she was part of this, that this was all just everything that Spirit had taught me, all of the knowledge that I had learned from Spirit, from the Catman, was all grooming for what was to come in the future before my death, before I go. And when I go, I just come back again. That's what the ancient does. I die, I hop back into another body, or I have to go through the birthing process again. But I don't get the vacation of going to the heavenly levels. I just keep on the earth and doing what Spirit wants me to do, which is, that's okay. That's all right. I'll do that, whatever it takes. But I'm here for the awakening.
Have you had another contact since then?
I've had many contacts.
With the same person?
Yes,
Same
with the commander.
Mm-hmm.
And each time, you see, what a lot of people don't realize, I don't know about other ETs. I only know about my own experiences. But what she told me, because I asked her, I said, "Are you here for the awakening?" Her answer to me was, "Aren't you going to ask me where I came from?" I said, "Where did you come from?" She said, "Earth. We are your future." How far into the future, I'm not sure. And I said, "What happened?" She said, we come here. There are select people that are selected. They're selected through even a genetic code, through your parents, their parents, and so on, to where they can find you. And part of which is fine with me, if I'm part of this genetic code. It's fine with me. But what she's telling me is our future is going to end up in this fragile state, in that what happened to the earth. And what she told me, what happened to the earth, is basically the annihilation of the earth, because what sets it into effect, she said, is the New World Order. She's telling me, she said, the New World Order must never come into effect. She said the New World Order was the downfall of this earth. She said from there, she said, I can show you time travel. I can show you what is going to happen. And from there, she showed me the towers going down. I had no idea that those were the towers. I'd never seen them, you know. I didn't know until I saw it on TV. But she showed me these towers going down. Then she showed me, she said, she showed me all of this, like riots. And she said, you know what this is? And I said, looks like a riot. And she said, it's called fear. She says, the ones who are in power today on your earth rule you by fear. The ones who are in power are not the ones that are the kings and the presidents. There are a select few that are in power. These are the ones that want the New World Order. These are the ones that want to enslave the people of Earth. These are the ones who will be the downfall of Earth because they're warmongers. These are the ones that are wanting to make money. She said, because money is their God. The only God, she said, that you need to worship would be the creation and allowing it to become the garden that it was supposed to have become. And she says, and not to believe, she said, do not believe anything you hear. Do not believe on everything you see, because what you can see with your eyes can be deceiving. All right, now this was before, like I said, back in 70s, early 70s. And this was before the computer and the internet and all this stuff got into effect. All right, now they can take clips of this and clips of that and put it together in pictures, and they could have me being the, Osama bin Laden or whatever. I mean, they can do whatever they want to do, basically. It's an illusion. The only truth on this earth is infinite love. Everything else is an illusion. People have been believing the lies since our, especially for the United States, since the United States was formed. Very shortly after. It's been manipulated by high powers. It's been manipulated by what was referred to as Illuminati. All right. Well, before the Illuminati, there was something, other forms, other secret societies, other things that wanted power and control. So what I'm saying is the awakening. The awakening is for people to wake up to the truth of what is happening in this country. And not just the United States, but it is around the world. Because there is not one hand that doesn't wash the other. And if you think that you're safe, then that is your illusion. The only thing I can tell you is the truth is out there, and you need to seek truth. Start listening to what's actually happening here. Start looking at what the deceptions are. Really start investigating, especially about the bombing, or not the bombing, excuse me, the airplane that flew to the towers. Odd that it dropped down just as if they were dropping down any skyscraper or any building. Odd that those explosions happened all the way down. There's oddities there, and there's so much fear with the people that they don't want to believe the truth. It's safer to put your head in the sand than to see what's actually going on. All right. What I have to say is the New World Order cannot ever come into process. If it comes into process, we're going to end up as what is called the aliens. Because these aliens are from our future. This is how we not evolved, but devolved. Their mind is very keen, scientific mind, but the body is so fragile that they don't have that long of a lifespan. They tremendously. Only one male, trying to reproduce, trying to create and heal from all of the I want to say nuclear waste, but I'm not sure that that was actually a nuclear explosion. But what it is New World Order, Homeland Security, taking this freedom, that freedom. This may be the land of the free, but we are not free. And what I'm here for is to say, let's get free. Let's be free. Let's go back to how it was before. Go back to our values. Not to be afraid to stand up and say, this isn't right. This is wrong. It's not right for you to have FEMA camps. It's not right for you to put people into prison and say that you're a terrorist. Okay, you're going to lock me up and say I'm a terrorist because I'm on this film. Well, then go ahead. Be my guest. There's the ones that have been groomed to help in this situation. There's Alex Jones. There was Bill Cooper. And, different people that are basically having to never know, well, Bill was shot. All right? So there's people that they want to make an example of because they don't want other people taking up the flag and carrying it and saying, hey, this is wrong. And what I'm trying to say is everything that is going on today, Alex Jones, God bless him, he's not afraid to say the truth. All right, gets a little excited sometimes, but, maybe he has something to get excited about.
I'll put a word in here for David Icke.
David Icke, I have not heard yet. I have very little have I heard, because like I said, I don't get into computers.
He's one of the
I've heard of him, but I haven't.
England,
But if David's out there and David's carrying that flag, God bless him.
They're fearless. I really admire that.
You have to be fearless. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. What are they going to do? Kill us? I'll just come back again. I'll just come back and, do the same thing again. But the thing of it is, it takes me time. Sometimes I have to get born. Sometimes I can do a walk-in, but it takes time to catch up. But when Spirit told me, you're here for the awakening, you have to wake the people up. This is what your destiny is. And I'm saying how can I do that? How can one person do this? How can one person spread this word to the whole world, right? And then Michael says to me, why ask? And I thought, oh, you're so right.
That'll be the Archangel Michael.
Yes, okay. Archangel Michael. He said, why ask how you're going to do this? Yes, you have the angels on your side. I mean, my goodness. And it was a very humbling experience. And it's so true, because Spirit has imposed on many people, not just Alex and David Icke and Bill. There's many more, and there's a lot that are at home, so to speak, novices that tune into all of this and are studying all of this, but maybe just backing up and not getting their foot wet, not getting their toes wet with it. And I'm saying, you know what, just go gung-ho, dive in. Don't worry about getting your toes wet. Don't worry about drowning. Don't worry about anything, because you know what, we'll all be gone one day. And will freedom live on, or will a military Nazi world be in effect? And if we do anything with our life, let it be for freedom. Let it be for the democracy that we were supposed to have had. What we thought we had, which was a lie. Because it doesn't matter if a person is a Democrat, Republican, who's the president, who's not the president, they're all puppets. It's all about the New World Order. And anyone who sees this broadcast, anyone who hears my voice, please start looking and studying about the New World Order and finding out what it's really about. Because once this goes into effect, already the Patriot Act and all of that, it's taken so much of our freedom, and there's stages, staged wars, staged terrorism, staged this, stage right, stage left, where they stage it and then go, oh, well, that happened, so now we're going to go in and have another war. Because they're making tons of money off these wars, the weapons dealers.
We're seeing predicted that they're going to have another false flag operation. That could be the alien invasion. I was actually reading an email today with a snippet from the Guardian newspaper. And they were saying that they're actually saying that, gosh, those other civilizations out in space will be looking down at planet Earth and they'll be seeing all that terrible pollution. And if we're not careful, they'll be invading us. So you see, they're getting us ready for the pseudo-alien invasion that'll take us all up into this martial law. So it's really good that we understand, isn't it, that there are good ETs out there, for want of a better word, that are there to
Yes, so while I was in the ship and having communication with the commander, I was looking about, I suppose it would be called the starboard side, because that's where, like I said, the different symbols were at, as far as the universal travel, and that would take you from one universe to another universe, that just like a blink of an eye. And I said to the commander, I said, how can the ship do this? And she was showing me, she says, well, let me show you this part here. She says, one thing you have to realize is the ship itself is alive. And the ship itself has its own existence. And of course, this was very hard for me to comprehend. And she said, if you'll touch, and she put her hand flat onto the wall of the ship. And as she did, the wall that was like a light color went like a dark gray or almost a black color, and it appeared to be like wet. And whenever she did that, I took my finger and I just poked the wall, and I went, and my fingers went actually in. And I remember it was like cold a bit and wet, kind of like water, but thicker than water. And I pulled my fingers out, and I thought, yeah, it is alive. But it felt like it was breathing when I had my fingers in there. And it was just such an experience. I just want you to know what is capable in the future. That this ship could be alive. And when she said alive, I am assuming that it would be that it has a mind and that it has some type of way of breathing, because I felt it. And in fact, she had said, the ship is alive, we're just the passengers. And I said, oh no, you're the commander, the captain, the commander. And she says, well, I suppose you could say that. And it was like a very humbling way of saying it to me. But yeah, so For anyone that's interested, that's how it was. And I don't know if all of the ships were like that. And also, I wanted to let you know that the fog that I was talking about over the Golden Gate Bridge, that she revealed to me, excuse me, later, that that's a cloaking device. She said that it's a mist that actually no one can see the ship. And so, and I said, well, is this just for nighttime or daytime or what? She says, no, it's for daytime or nighttime. And later on, throughout the years, I've been approached broad daylight. I was driving down, going home from work. I had left work early. I was going from Salem to Staten. I lived in Staten at the time. And I left work, I think it was like 2 something in the afternoon, left work, and I was going out Highway 22 to Staten. And thereabouts where the penitentiary, some type of penitentiary to the right, before you get to Joseph exit. It was a beautiful day, sunny day. And I looked and I saw something flash in my peripheral vision. And I looked to the left, and here's this spaceship coming. It was one of those. It was round. I saw it from the distance, and it was shiny and had these clouds going this way. And I pulled over and stopped. There's traffic, everything. I pulled over and stopped and thought, yeah, that's a spacecraft. And then that's the last thing, the next thing I remembered at that point was it was 10:06, something like that, in the evening, and I was parked in front of my house in Staten. So there was quite a few hours had went by there. So I had been taken right there, broad daylight. I have no idea what happened with my car. Maybe they zapped the car up too. I have no idea. But I had the car when at 10:06. So there is a cloaking device, and daytime, nighttime doesn't matter. I've been taken in the day. I've been taken in.
Next one is going to be the alien invasion, which we've been well prepared for from Hollywood.
Yes.
And I believe it was Reagan, wasn't it, who actually mentioned that, of way of uniting the Earth, or the powers on the Earth, whatever, against an alien invasion. And it's really good to know that there are some good ETs out there that are going to be helping. And also, I've got this vision of the back-engineered black triangles hovering overhead, and the good guys hovering overhead of them.
Well,
I'll try to keep that picture.
Partly, in all honesty, everything as I've understood it, because of what the commander had told me, because I did say to the commander, I said, you're very kind, you're very open with me, very honest with me. And she said, there are others who are not. And she did reveal to me, she said, because she told me they are from our future. They are Earthlings, actually, after the devastation that had come to pass on the Earth. And that was why the warning for the New World Order and all of that's going on right now. This is the beginning of the end for us if we allow this to happen. But she did say there's good and bad in everything. Just as with people from the Earth, there's good and bad. And then she said, as the aliens, there's some good, there's some bad, and so we would have to be careful. You do have to be careful. Anytime I'm taken, I always have that little thought. I hope that it's a good one. I hope it's a good alien. And so far I've been blessed. But as far as the movies and how the media is pushing as far as alien contact or alien invasion, Reagan got up and was talking about alien invasion, just talking about Star Wars, the New World Order, all of this. I mean, the presidents have all promoted it. They've had to, because they are, like I said, puppets for the other sources that are actually in charge of the earth. And I wouldn't doubt that there would be another orchestrated event involving what we would be, what they would try to construe as aliens invading us, so that the powers that be could become more empowered to have restraints on people. They don't want people to talk. They don't want you to think. If you think about this for just a minute, look at the world as it is right now, the crisis that is going on. Look at the employment rates. Look at the poverty levels. Look at the people, how scared they are. Oh, I'm going to lose my house. Oh, I'm going to lose my car. Oh, I don't know how I'm going to feed my kids. How am I going to get school clothes for my children? I mean, everyone is so stressed out over money, and everyone is so afraid, and they're all working so hard. There's so many people that I know of that's working 2 and 3 jobs just to get by. And they don't have time to think what the government's doing. They're willing to hand over their power or whatever. Well, let somebody else take care of this. Let somebody else take the responsibility. Let the president solve this issue or that issue, or Congress or the senators or whoever. And they're too busy just getting in their car, worrying how they're going to pay for their gas to get to work and how to pay their bills, that they've become slaves to the government, actually. Because every job they have, they're paying in money, they're paying taxes, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're using the Federal Reserve, they're doing what the government is telling them they need to do. And they don't have time to think. And they're so tired, and they're so depressed, and so they go to the doctor, they get medication that the big conglomerates, the pharmaceutical companies, is part of the New World Order people, and the pharmaceutical companies want to keep you drugged. They want to keep you to where you can't make a move without going to a doctor that's going to write out a prescription for you, to where you can have more and more and more of these prescriptions, because pharmaceutical companies are making a ton of money, and plus they're allowed to do this and get by with it because the powers that be want to keep you crippled in your thinking and your mind to where you can't think. The only thing you can do is drag yourself to work, drag yourself home, and zone out in front of a TV or a video game or something and try not to think. This is what's going on in America today. It's time for you to turn off the video games. It's time to quit distracting yourself from reality. People who watch the TV, the video games, this, that, the other, what they're doing is wasting time. They're distracting themselves. They're not into the reality of what's actually going on. They can listen to someone saying, well, we're going to have home